Hey everyone. So tonight on my live, we are going to be talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and my my actual brother, my in real life brother, he is a wrestler. Evil Nate is his handle. He's going to be going live with me to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as he knows more about that movie than anybody else that I know. So I'm going to go ahead and send him a request so I can get him on here. And I think that should be a lot of fun. I actually rewatched that movie this morning. Hey.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. The dogs started acting up like as soon as I started this, so I hope they calm down.
That's funny. That's okay. My two dogs, they were doing the same. I took them out to pee, and they've been running around and stuff. The Shih Tzu was attacking the Shih Poo, or however you say that. So that's what they do.
So, did you get to rewatch Texas Chainsaw Massacre today?
No, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it today, but I did watch the documentary. Well, there's several documentaries about behind the scenes on it. Of let me see, the shocking, and it's not the shocking, yeah, the shocking truth behind Texas Chainsaw. I think they filmed it in the early 2000s. It's before almost anybody passed away. So I watched most of that today while I was at the gym.
Okay. I didn't get to watch any of the documentaries or anything like that. But I rewatched the movie because it had been a minute since I watched it,
Yeah.
and still as disturbing as I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. It's they filmed it for a solid 31 days. They started in July, the summer of 1973, and 31 days they filmed it. Very low budget, very makeshift cast. I mean, that's where everybody. Toby Hooper, the director, he had one movie under his name at that point to his credit. I think it was called Eggshells. And so him coming in and doing this, it was kind of a big deal because they were trying to bring film to Austin, Texas, and the film school in Austin, Texas. Maybe it was the University of Austin. I don't know. But so it was a big deal when he decided, hometown boy, to come there and shoot this horror film. So Marilyn Burns, who plays Sally Hardesty, the first ever heroine of a horror film, a slasher film, the prototype. She was working, I think, on the Austin film crew or the film board, and they were trying to get films made in Texas. So she ended up getting the part of, the lead, Marilyn Burns, and the whole crew, the whole cast are all Texas, every one of them. So
I know, like, that was one of the things about that movie, was that was kind of where you got one of your first ever like final girls at, and that was kind of one of the things when they did that reboot or whatever back in 2008, I guess it was, and they killed her, like, technically, like, you don't have a survivor at the end of that one. Am I thinking of the right one where she gets stabbed through the back of the car seat? You think she's gonna live?
So that's the prequel to the remake that came out in 2006. That one did.
Okay.
So
okay.
The remake came out in 2003, and that's the one Michael Bay, his company, produced, and that movie's kind of responsible for, honestly, the big remake boom we got from like 2003 going forward. Because what was really cool about it was the 30-year anniversary of the original film, and they were going to do the remake and stuff. The remake is my second favorite out of the entire franchise. I think it's a beautifully made movie, great story, phenomenal acting. The cinematography is beautiful. Everything about that movie is perfect. And Leatherface is actually genuinely terrifying in that film, in my opinion. Not a big fan of the prequel. And the reason they did what you're talking about there in the prequel is because where it was his first thing. So there was never going to be a survivor in that. But when you go to, after they get past that, and then they try to, what's really funny, so now everybody's doing this thing that kind of like John Carpenter in the Blumhouse they've done with the new Halloweens. They've just disregarded all the sequels except for the first film. So then they start, 40 years later. So before that happened, if you go back to 2012, the movie Texas Chainsaw 3D already did that. So it did that before anybody else did. However, it's a garbage ass movie and it sucks. It's not really good. Like
Right.
it's terrible. Like it's god awful. The guy that wrote Jason Goes to Hell, he wrote that movie and it sucks. And it's
Yeah.
nothing. It's actually nothing that anybody that played in that movie. Dan Yeager was a good Leatherface. The big problem with that movie is it's supposed to be 40 years later, and Leatherface has a little cousin that survives in August 18th, 1973. 40 years later, that little cousin that was a baby, 40 years later, she's only in her 20s.
Right.
In her 20s.
Yeah.
So, piss on that movie. And then the next one that came, it's called Leatherface, the prequel to the whole series. If the movie wasn't called Leatherface and it wasn't about Leatherface, it'd be a good movie. But you know what? It sucks. It's terrible. It's
right.
They give a rhyme to reason why Leatherface does what he does. So it's a prequel to the original 1973 that we're talking about right now. And it's the first chainsaw movie filmed out of the country. It was filmed in Bulgaria, and it sucks. Great acting in it. I mean, there's the sheriff in it, and then the woman, she does she was in the first Conjuring. She plays Leatherface's mother in that. They're great in it, but the movie it sucked. It was not very good.
Yeah. So I haven't seen Leatherface because I thought that, I mean, there's like some stuff I try to avoid that's got a certain degree of like disturbingness to it. I try to stay away from it, and that was kind of one of those. I looked at it and I was like, I don't know if I could handle that or not. But like with this. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, though, as far as like, so a lot of these like older, like gritty horror movies, because that's what that is. You know, they have these certain boxes a lot of times that they check off that make me not watch them. And the only reason that I can watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre more than like one or two times, you know, like I can watch it over and over and it's not that big a deal. There's no sexual assault in that movie.
No.
Which is great because most of those gritty movies like that, they went for that, you know, like they put all the shocking things in there.
So you're right about that. And that's one of the biggest, most appealing things about even the entire Chainsaw franchise. I can count on quite literally one hand out of now at this point, there is 6, 7, 8, and part 9 comes out next month on Netflix. Out of the 8 films that have been released at this point, there is only 2 of them that contain nudity. And actually, even in the garbage prequel we were just talking about, Leatherface, there's actually no sexual assault in that movie. There is nudity in that movie, but it's a man and a woman that escaped a mental institution. They're having a 3-way with a dead body. And but to go back to what you're talking about, so a lot of those movies back then, when you're dealing with low budget, what's the easiest thing that's access? You know, nudity and rape, you know?
Yeah.
So a couple years prior to that, Sean S. Cunningham and Wes Craven, they did the movie Last House on the Left, which is, it was a big deal, but it was about rape revenge is what it was about. They left the girl for dead. Her family, I think, I can't remember because I actually didn't sit down there and fully watch I watched the remake. I never really watched the original much, because I'm not really into those either. But what's really cool, if you watch, I think 1973, the Canadian horror film Black Christmas, which is so good. That movie, and then 1974's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They both do the whole thing of they don't rely on nudity, they don't rely on sex, and there is a minimum amount of blood in both of those films, and it's all about the imagination. Yeah. And the reason Chainsaw works so well is because the tone. It's all about the tone. It's all about what it feels. It feels real because of the camera, the style of film. I don't know what kind it is that they shot that on. It's so low budget. It feels real, almost like a documentary. So when you're watching it, and when Pam gets put on the meat hook, you don't see the meat hook go into her back, and it doesn't come out of her chest. But what your mind is producing is far worse than what you're seeing on the screen. And after Leatherface hangs her, he starts chopping up Kirk with his chainsaw. you don't see him actually do it. All you see is him do this with the saw, this
Yeah.
with the saw. You just see Kirk's body, and you see Pam on the meat hook doing this, and you just see Leatherface using a saw. The only time you really see blood in that movie is when he gets Franklin towards the climax of the film, and as he's sawing away at Franklin, which you don't see penetration of the chainsaw, there's little squirts of blood, which that was from both Frank, the actor that played Franklin, I forget his name. He had a little thing of blood he spit out. Then there was 2 people on each side of the wheelchair that was doing the same.
Yeah.
So, and the only reason the movie ever got an R rating is because there was no such thing as PG-13 in the early 1970s.
Right. Yeah. My friend, Glam City Rocker, she said that the imagination is scarier. I definitely agree with that. That like it is scary. The things you think you see a lot of times are way scarier than what they can put on the screen.
Yeah, our imagination is less is more. It's the same thing as with the exception of the remake of Texas Chainsaw, we never saw Leatherface's face, and not seeing his face and the idea he's producing these different personalities by wearing somebody else's face or a combination of other people's faces. That's terrifying. It's terrifying. That's what makes Jason and Michael scary too. Is it's cool to see their face, but when you don't, and it's just that emotionless blank expression, that's terrifying. So our imagination, less is more. It's okay to use a music example. It's cool to be Led Zeppelin, which is all technical and badass, because I love Led Zeppelin. But then sometimes it's okay to be AC/DC. They're phenomenal, but they're simple.
Yeah.
Simple to the point, like punk rock. And you know this.
Yeah.
Punk rock's not about guitar solos. It's not about doing all these crazy jazz chords or anything like that. It's about simple, kick you in your ass to the point. And that's what Chainsaw is. Chainsaw doesn't have to be what 30, 40 years later we got with the Hostel movies, the Saw movies, and all of that.
Right.
So.
My friend Dak in the chat here too, he mentioned that you can stay at that gas station. Did you stay at that gas station? I know you've stayed at some places.
I did. This past summer, actually, my partner, my best friend, my roommate, whatever you want to call her, Dahlia Page, the Black Dahlia, my fellow wrestler, she took me for my birthday down to Texas, and I forget the name of it. It starts with a B, but they had restored the gas station back in 2017. So for my birthday, she took me down there, and we stayed at the gas station. There's out back, there are cabins, and you can go out back, and you get whatever cabin. So we stayed there. We watched the original Texas Chainsaw, had pizza, and then I have that Excalibur chainsaw, which is an exact replica from Part 3. And we did a whole photo shoot with that actual chainsaw that's signed by Leatherface himself from Part 3. So we had that chainsaw down there at that gas station. And what's really cool is 2 hours up the road from that gas station is the house from the original also. They moved it from Round Rock, Texas, over to Kingsland, Texas. So when you're down there, go stay at the gas station, then go 2 hours up the road. It's Kingsland, Texas, and you can have brunch. They have amazing food. And now because of the gas station, they embrace the movie because Paige and I went back there before, back in 2015 when we first moved to Texas. And they weren't really embracing the chainsaw history that much. But now because of the gas station, they do. So you go in, they have like all this cool like merchandise you can get. They have a guy, one of the waiters, he dresses up as Leatherface with a chainsaw. They let you go all around. So we went up there too, and I took that chainsaw from Part 3, and I did a promo outside. So, yeah, I've been to the house and then at the gas station, and about 45 minutes up the road, I think, from the gas station is the bridge from Part 2 that they filmed the whole scene where Leatherface cuts off that guy's head and through the car. So it's 45 minutes up the road. And then this is what's really funny. And then where the house was, where the original movie was filmed in Round Rock, Texas, 40 minutes from there is the house from the remake and the prequel to the remake. And then 15 minutes or 20 minutes from Round Rock, Texas is the house from Part 4 with Matthew McConaughey. So all these
Oh.
places, yeah. So this when we were down there for a wrestling booking back in November, we got a friend actually that lives in Round Rock, Texas, and I was like, oh my God, this is where Chainsaw was filmed, part 1. And I started searching. I said, oh my God, part 4 is right up the road. This is crazy. So
Yeah.
we went up there, and the house, I swear to God, they haven't done, like, they've maintained it. It looks just like it did in the 1994 film Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. It's
Well, that's
insane, and people
awesome.
are still living it. They got it like fenced off, but it looks like
Yeah.
you just stepped into the 90s. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
I've been to the gas station, the house, and I'm gonna try to see the remake house when I'm back down in Texas in March for wrestling. So
Hmm. Um, so like it had been a minute since I watched the movie. I don't actually remember when the last time I watched it was.
yeah,
For some reason in my mind, I completely forgot how that movie starts out.
yeah,
I forgot about that whole thing with the cemetery.
yeah,
That like as soon as they started showing those corpses, I was like, did I click on the right thing? Because like I
yeah,
completely forgot about that.
yep.
And then I also the whole scene where they're exploring that house that used to be
Yeah, next door at the old Franklin house. It's
yeah.
Sally and Franklin's grandparents' house. Yeah,
Yeah, I could that I didn't even remember that
yeah,
that happened. I was like, because in my mind the order of events was completely
yeah.
wrong in my mind. I don't know
Hey,
why. Like I
I
was
get it.
thinking Franklin got killed first, and like
No. He's no. You had to save the wheelchair guy for last. So,
yeah,
he that's the thing like about that movie is like it's even now when I do go back and watch it, I still find something new that I was like, man, I didn't even realize that because now that I know like everything about it, or as much as I can, I'm able to pay attention to other things like the meat Franklin's eating as he's like at the van and looking at the hitchhiker, what the hitchhiker put on with his blood. Uh,
yeah,
the amount of, I don't know if it's spiders or granddaddy longlegs that are just coming out of that corner in the old Franklin house. It's really weird.
yeah,
And then it's funny when Pam and Kirk are coming down the steps. If you pay attention to how they edited that, like you can hear
hmm.
both of them laughing, and their laughs keep changing because how they spliced it and cut it. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, check it out. And then you just see the subtle things too about Franklin's just having the worst day possible. From the opening of the movie where he flies down the hill to he's the fifth wheel on this trip. He can't get upstairs with everybody. He's hurting himself. He got cut by
Yeah,
the hitchhiker. And even Pam,
yeah,
she's reading his horoscope talking about how, hey, you're going to upset people around you. It's like, see, when I first watched it, like the first 10 times, I didn't pay attention to her reading the horoscopes. And it's
yeah,
like, it's laid it down for you what's coming. So,
yeah. Oh, that was something else I was going to ask you about too. Which you probably know the actual like the inspiration for this movie and stuff, but
yeah.
I know there's a theory about witchcraft with this movie about like when that all the stuff that the hitchhiker does in the van
Yeah.
is him putting a curse on them.
Huh. See, I honestly, I've never saw that theory. That's cool.
Yeah, like so it's like basically, he takes the picture and
Yeah.
then Franklin's like well first he cuts himself, okay?
Yeah.
So he's bleeding. Then
Yeah.
he takes that picture and then they're like we don't want the picture because he tries to charge the money for it. And then he opens up that foil and he burns it. He
Yeah.
folds it back up and puts it back in his pocket and then he
Does
cuts
this.
Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he cuts Franklin, and it's like it looks like he's doing some sort of witchcraft, some sort of ritual.
And I can see that. And then too, when they take off, he like marks the van like.
Yeah, and he puts his blood. And then in the Franklin house too, they find those bones, the way those bones are tied up and stuff like that too.
Franklin looks up, and then the camera pans up, and you just see like the chicken bones and all that put together. Yeah.
So, but the only thing for me though, I mean, I think that theory's interesting.
It is.
I could definitely see where it would come from, but that guy's an idiot. I don't think he could be practicing like.
No, he's the actual guy that played him too. This is what's cool. Edwin Neal, I think is his name. I believe he has some form of. I don't know if it was. I don't want to misquote, but he's got like something wrong, like schizophrenia or something like that. But and that could be wrong, the wrong phrase. But he had something to where he was like he really fit that gimmick he was doing in the movie, and like he just brought, I think, a lot of himself into that. He said, and just things he had seen and done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see his character, because the whole concept of this family is there's something wrong. I mean, you have 3 different men in the household, and there's a dead grandma. Where do they come from? There's definitely an indication of inbreeding, even though they never say it. There's an indication, because Leatherface is a mongoloid. He comes off as, slow, and then so does the hitchhiker. And then when you see the cook is the one that's kind of, later we find out in part 2, Drayton Sawyer, but in the first one, he's just called the cook. You see that he's kind of the glue that's holding all this together. He's kind of the face of the family. So, I mean, that's interesting. I've never heard that theory, but I've always thought it was wild how he was doing it, because I figured he was just doing that to, like, spook them and scare them. And as far as it ever went for me, him putting his blood on the van, I always figured he did that because he knew the route that they were going with the gas station and stuff. And if he marked that on there, the cook
knew.
The cook would know, like, okay, I see something's going on, like, or just something like that. But I'm sure there's more commentary on that. So
I'll tell you something that cracked me up when when I was watching it was when they stop at that gas station.
Yeah.
The attendant that's working there.
Yeah.
He comes out and he's washing the windshield.
Keeps going back and forth.
Yeah. Every time the cook walks over there, he comes back over and starts washing it again. And then when he walks away, he'll stop.
It's the subtle things like of that movie, because Toby Hooper even said it. He said one thing he was really disappointed in is that nobody saw all the dark humor he hid throughout the movie. That's the reason part 2. That's the reason part 2 is just crazy over the top. Because he wanted everybody. This is funny. This is what I'm putting out. This is supposed to be funny too. So because in that movie, like, you look at how Franklin reacts and acts, it's all hilarious, the things that happen to him. Like, it really is. Like, from just how he's having his tantrum downstairs. There's the window guy. How the cook treats Leatherface with the door. All that stuff. Just the interaction with the family. Even when they're carrying Grandpa down the steps and they drop him.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of dark humor that's hidden throughout the scenes of this movie.
Like, what is up with Grandpa? Why does he look like that? What is that? Is he supposed to have someone else's skin on, or is like he just like what is that?
They were just wanting him to look like basically he was like extremely old and just like barely hanging on, and he had kind of like morphed back into this baby like infant. That's the reason, like, when he sucks Sally Hardesty, he sucks her finger with the blood. He does this right here, and he's getting really excited, like a baby. Yeah. I've never understood why they did it or why they made him look that way. I think he's just, like, really old, like, just, like, super, super old. Like, that's all I could ever come up with.
Well, I thought he was a corpse until they put her finger in his mouth, because he seemed like he was dead.
Well, what's wild about that is he's actually sucking her real blood, Marilyn Burns, on that, because they couldn't get the capsule or the fake blood. Like, they couldn't get it to work. And I think the hitchhiker, Ed Neal, I think he tore the tape off the knife or something like that, and he really sliced her finger, because 31 days in the Texas heat in the hottest time of the year, July into August. Like, they were, you good? You okay?
Yeah, I was trying to get the dog.
Oh, you're good. They all were just kind of like really like losing their mind. I mean, Gunnar Hansen almost died. Leatherface, he almost died twice making that movie. And
wow.
Everybody was dehydrated. Everybody stunk too, because they couldn't wash their clothes because they didn't have costumes. So the whole set was full of dead animal parts, meat, and then perspiration from everybody. So it stunk. By the time they got to the end of shooting, everybody stunk. That rag they put in Marilyn Burns' mouth to shut her up, that was just a rag they actually picked up off the floor, and she said it was gross and nasty.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I bet she had to be on, like, antibiotics after that.
Probably. It was the early 70s, I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying when I was watching it this morning. I was like, I like not that because I think that I knew that, but I forgot about that. But like, it in real life, if you were a survivor of that, like the amount of medication and stuff they'd have to put you on
Oh
once
yeah.
you got.
I mean, just the antibiotics alone, let alone what you'd have to need for mental health. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Joey was like, I'd just rather die. He's like, I'd probably just kill myself afterwards. I wouldn't want. He's like, that's
well,
so much trauma.
it is. It is a lot. That's why at the end of part 2, you see Stretch, like, she goes crazy and starts swinging the chainsaw around. So
Yeah, yeah. Uh, we got a few people in the chat here
that's cool.
interacting
I
with
can't
us.
see. I don't have glasses on or contacts, and so I'm blind as hell. So
Oh,
yeah.
But I mean, I did still end up liking that movie. I remember I liked it whenever I was younger and stuff. It definitely is different. I mean, I know when I watched it as a teenager, it was different than I remembered it from when I was a kid. But like, it is really to me it holds up. And I got a little nervous though when I was watching it because that's what I had said when we started it. I was like, well, I know there's no like rape scenes in it, so and then but that scene at the dinner table when they have her tied up there, I was like, did I forget that? Like, did I block this out? Because it really seemed like they could have been setting that up for something awful, and thankfully that was not.
Yeah, that's why thankfully somebody like Rob Zombie has never remade that movie, because I would
that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, it'd be garbage and gross. I mean, it's that's just cheap to go that way. And I am excited though to see they got the sequel coming out to it again next month, and I never get my hopes up too high, but I am excited to see it. So to see what they do. I wish more of the cast was still alive, like Marilyn Burns and Gunnar Hansen. They passed over the past like 6 to 7 years.
Yeah. My friend Johnny is in the chat here. He's a big Texas Chainsaw fan. I think when I did one of these talking about sequels and stuff, and he said that I think he said that part 2 was like one of his favorite sequels of all time.
Yeah, I like part 2 a lot, man, because it comes up with the so it's spooky. I love the monologue in the beginning, with the words and how Leatherface, they've been silent. They couldn't find anybody at the farmhouse, whatever it said. And they come up with the moniker of the Saw's family, which they end up using in part 3.
Mm-hmm.
Part 2 is fun, and I love the chainsaw battle between Lefty, Dennis Hopper. I mean, you have an Academy Award winner playing in Texas Chainsaw fighting Leatherface. They're duking it out with chainsaws. That's cool. I think my favorite sequel is the third one. I love the third one a lot. So
that's the one with the little girl in it, ain't it?
Yeah, Leatherface's little daughter. That's what it's alluded to. That's what it's alluded to. That's the closest they ever come to something like that in these movies. So,
I noticed too today when I was watching it that I thought it was funny also that Leatherface, when he was murdering people, he was in his like regular clothes, like his apron and all that. And then when he's preparing their food or whatever, like he's in the kitchen getting stuff ready, he's dressed. He's got a woman's face on.
Grandma,
and hair.
He's got the grandma mask on, the cleaning lady. So this is what's really cool about it. I talked to, and I knew this before I talked to him, but I spoke to Dan Yeager, who played Leatherface in 3D. And Dan got mentored by Gunnar, who played Gunnar in part 1. And when I was coming up with my current wrestling gimmick, I shot Dan a message on Facebook, and I said, you got any tips? I'm basing it loosely off of Leatherface and what I'm doing. And he said, Leatherface is afraid of everything. And he is. Because if you watch throughout the whole movie, like after he kills Jerry, when Jerry comes in and finds Pam in the ice, in the whole like freezer, he turns around and Leatherface dukes him with the sledgehammer. Leatherface is like looking around and he's frantic. He's like, where do they keep coming from? Like he's freaking out because he's got that, he's got a mental problem. And each mask that he wears, though, it's for different tasks. Like, so he's got the killing mask on. That's when he was, I'm going to assume that day he was preparing, you know, the slaughter that day when everybody started coming into his house and he started killing everybody. Well, then when the cook and everybody gets home, he's got the old lady mask on and he's cleaning and all that. And then at dinner, he's got the pretty lady mask on because it's dinner time. So
Yeah.
I wish that's something they would dabble more into, him having all these different faces for these different personalities. And then, like, the best way you could ever stop Leatherface, you pull his mask off and he just stops like a robot because you took his personality away and he wouldn't know what to do. Like, if they ever, like, they need to play on that. They never have. And I think if they did something like that, they could end the whole movie. Leatherface is just sitting there, face without his mask. He doesn't know what to do because he just lost his mask, you know?
Right.
Because that's what they all do. They represent a different thing that he's doing.
Yeah. I know I've always wondered too, like, is Leatherface like maybe like transgender or something, because he does dress pretty often in women's skin.
Well, you have to think, especially when you're talking about part 4, you have to think he's based off of Ed Gein. Ed Gein, you know, didn't have a crazy body count. He killed a couple people, 2 people that they know of. Other people went missing. Ed Gein's whole thing was, aside from, you know, his obsession with his mom, is he was obsessed with the ideal of changing his sex, and that's why he started wearing women's skin. Like he wanted to do it without, because I think that was the first ever in the 1950s was the first ever transgender surgery. I think I might be wrong, but I think that was like the first like publicly like published surgery, something like that. And I could be totally wrong. And Ed Gein was obsessed and interested in changing his sex. He would like, you know, put on a woman's skin and go out and dance naked in that skin under the pale moonlight. Quite literally, that's what he would do. And Leatherface is kind of that same thing. Like, he probably is. Like, part 1, they kind of play on it with the pretty face, you know, the pretty lady face, and then the grandma mask.
Yeah.
Then they don't really play on it anymore until you get to part 4 with Matthew McConaughey, and Leatherface goes straight drag queen at the end of that movie. He's in the dress. He looks like a woman. He's got the long hair. And that was actually played by Robert Jacks, who was the first at this point that I know of. He's the only openly gay Leatherface in real life, like Robert Jacks was. So there was part 1 and part 4 kind of play on it, like maybe there's something, you know, Leatherface is interested in changing his sex, or he's interested, or more, he identifies more as a woman as opposed to a man. They do hint around like in those two, because part 2, he falls in love with Stretch. Part 3, he's kind of a teenager, kind of like he's learning his alphabet and stuff like that. And, you know, there's the whole idea of maybe that's his daughter, maybe it's not, we don't know. So and then after that, they don't really come back to that anymore. So I've always thought that they have, like, because where he's based off of Ed Gein, and Ed Gein influenced Norman Bates, dressed up like his mom, you know. Leatherface dons women's faces, wears makeup. So I mean, I've always thought so.
Yeah. It's just an interesting. He's just an interesting character, and I think he gets lumped in as a Texas Chainsaw for some reason gets lumped into slasher category. I don't think it's a slasher.
So this is what I'll say. Slasher's my favorite genre. I put it in as the kind of the grandfather of that genre, because Halloween is the one that really came along in 77 or 78, whatever year it came out. I think it was filmed in 77, came out in 78. I don't know. Halloween's the one that kind of caused the 80s slasher boom. I do put Leatherface in the category myself just because it has all the elements of what you expect in a slasher. You know, it's premature, though, at that point. Just like if you go back and watch Psycho that came out a few years prior to that, you know, few years prior to that, you know, it has those elements, too, of what's going to become what we know as a slasher. And I personally put it in the slasher category because you got the final girl, you have the mass killer that uses a blunt object, You have the young kids that are getting picked off one by one by one. And then you have, I guess right now that's all I can come up with. But all those things describe Nightmare on Elm Street, describe Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, describe, whatever, Friday 13th, any of them. So I do personally, and I know that everybody always calls it the grandfather of the slashers. So that's where I put it. He's just different. The difference between Leatherface and all those are he's not doing it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those guys are doing it alone unless it's like Wrong Turn,
Yeah. Well, see, that's my thing with it. The reason that to me it doesn't seem like I don't know what I would call it though, I guess is my thing. I'm not really sure where to put it, but he's not out actively pursuing these people. No. These people have made a mistake and ended up there.
That's true.
So that takes away from it.
It does and it doesn't, because Michael Myers is confided to Haddonfield.
Mm-hmm.
Jason's confided to Camp Crystal Lake. He's not leaving Crystal Lake, with the exception of a couple of stupid things they did here and there. Freddy,
like Manhattan.
Which is made no sense at all. Like, so stupid. But Jason's never leaving Camp Crystal Lake. Freddy's never leaving Elm Street until at the very end of the series. And it's so me personally, that's what I think. I put in a slasher because I wouldn't know what else to put it in. It's just it was created. Just think of, you're a big punk rock fan. Before punk rock had a name, there was a band that existed that wasn't punk, but they had the elements. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friend in the chat just said Texas Chainsaw is a touching movie about family and food.
Technically, yeah. Technically. It's anti-hippie.
Yeah.
It's anti-hippie.
I think maybe too, though, one of the reasons that there's a disconnect in it for me with the slasher thing, though, is seeing the place that the killer is living. Like, it's their home. It's not like another, because you don't really know where Jason Voorhees lives. He's just kind of in the woods and out, there's one movie I think where they show some kind of tunnel system or something that he was living inside of.
Yeah, that's the remake. Yeah. He's running wild under the campground now.
Yeah.
The remake.
But it's not a house, and it's the same with a lot of other Halloween, you kind of get it, but you don't. I don't know. It's just kind of, I think that's what it, and then actually them cannibalizing the corpses, because a lot of times you don't even see a slasher kills a body, they just leave it there,
that's true. Well, that's true, but also if you look at the Halloween and Friday 13th, Jason and Michael both, they do have examples of moving the bodies around to scare people.
That's true. Halloween especially.
Yeah, well, even Jason's mom in the first Friday the 13th, Pamela, she, a body comes flying through the window. She moves the bodies around. And with Friday the 13th, Jason supposedly drowned as a little boy. And I always looked at it as he almost drowned. Pamela thought he drowned, and he kind of lived in the woods. And he was stuck there, until he gets killed by Corey Feldman in part 4. And then, that's when he becomes zombie Jason. But up until that point, he was just, there was a difference. Up until that point, he wouldn't die. And then after that point, he couldn't die. That's how I always, before he wouldn't, after he couldn't. And I think he kind of claimed Camp Crystal Lake as his own home. And when you came there, he killed you. That's how I always looked at him. And with Michael Myers at this point now, if you disregard all the original sequels to what's going on now, it's got something to do with Haddonfield and his house. So,
Right, yeah. I know there's supposed to be the Michael Myers universe at this point, I guess, though, where you've got different, the movies are not like they're on their own branches, their own timelines. Like it's like different universe kind of things. But
there's a really good theory about all of the Halloween movies leading up to the new one, and basically how Michael Myers is a robot, and no, it actually makes sense. It's laughable, but you can look it up. They got articles and YouTube theories on it. So he gets killed in part 2, but part 3 is about Silver Shamrock. So in part 3, when the robots get killed in that, they bleed like orange. Well, in Halloween 6, when Michael gets killed, for some reason, they have him bleed orange. Like he
interesting.
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing in so part 4 and 5, he comes after little Jamie, and then he gets broke out by like the guy with the suitcase and stuff. That's part of the whole cult in part 6, and then in part 7, where they had 3 different Michael Myers masks. In part 7, one was CGI, and then the other 2 were completely different. There's a theory that was different Michael Myers robots. Michael Myers robots. So it's an interesting look at it, because the weird thing about it, and then too, there's connections with the name of some of the characters, and then part 3, Silver Shamrock, and it connects with the Cult of Thorn or whatever it was called from part 4. But yeah, Michael, he bleeds the same colored blood that the robots do in part 3. Because think about it, part 2, he gets shot in the eyes and blown up. Well, he comes back in part 4, he can see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I definitely will look into that.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It makes a lot of sense. It's crazy.
Today, when I was watching Texas Chainsaw, I noticed that a bunch of weird stuff in that dinner scene, though, that I hadn't noticed, or maybe had noticed in the past, but just kind of forgot where it had been a while. Yeah. But the main thing was that weird, that light, their lamp over their table.
Got the face.
It was like faces sewn together or something.
Yeah, that's always that was one little nuance I would always like look at every time I watch that dinner scene, because it's really weird, and that's where the whole Ed Gein influence comes in. And I think that was the one that the production people behind the scenes, when they were making that, they had to keep like replacing it because it was burning it. I don't know if that was it. That might have been, but there was this things going on, like the light would be burning the bone, the actual bone that they were using, and then the fake skin that they had, it was messing with that. So yeah, that was always a unique prop to have that face pulled over the lamp.
Yeah. Well, and then like also too, that scene, she's they've got her tied to that chair. She can't move her arms. No. They got a plate of food sitting there in front of her though. Yeah. And a cup of something. I don't know what that is, but some kind of drink. And like how's she supposed to even get that if she wanted it?
Well, I think that's the thing. It's part of the humor, and they're insane. They're absolutely crazy. And I mean, you can see that from the time the cook, when he kidnaps her, and how he's talking to her.
And
because
he's smashing her with that broomstick.
Yeah. Well, apparently they had to keep shooting that scene, because he wasn't laying into her. And finally, Marilyn Burns told, I think his name is Jim Sedow, or Sedow. I don't know how you say his last name, but Marilyn told him, just hit me with it, beat me up with it. That way we can get this scene done. And that's what he did. So he's really laying it into her in that scene that's in the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I knew she actually jumped through the window in one of those scenes, but I wasn't sure. I figured it was the one at the bottom of the house. I didn't think they would have had her actually jump out of the top of the house, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, did they? Did she jump out of that?
I mean, I know they show, like there's a scene like that, but I didn't know if she actually did it or not.
I don't know. I want to say she did, because they didn't have like actual stunt people on this movie. This was like as low budget and as guerrilla like as you could get making something like this. And that scene you're talking about, when she escapes through the top window and she falls, when she takes off limping, Leatherface sees her and he comes down. Well, Gunner, Leatherface had like 3 or 4 inch stilettos on those cowboy boots, to make him a little taller. He comes running around, and there was he actually fell when they were filming it, and the chainsaw was running. And it flew up, and it almost like hit him and like cut him and stuff.
Oh my God!
Yeah, between that and dehydrating, like I said, he almost died 2 times making the movie. So
Well, that's wild.
Yeah, it is.
My friend in the chat said he stayed at that gas station a few years ago too. When
Nice.
he said his band was down there playing and they stayed at it.
It's
But
nice.
yeah, like I also wondered too, if the truck driver. Do you think the truck driver lived, or do you think Leatherface somehow chased him down and killed him at the end of the movie?
Well, in the that garbage sequel, Chainsaw 3D, he was dead in the
Yeah.
sequel. They had him hanging up on a meat hook or something. Uh,
Oh,
I always assumed he got away, and
yeah.
he's still alive. That actor is. I think it's funny. His real name is like it's not Ed Gein, but it's close to it. So that's what's real funny. Ed Guin or Gween or something like that. So it's real close to Ed Gein. And
Yeah.
a quick cool thing about that, they found the actual semi truck he was driving. The people that own the
Uh-huh.
gas station, and they're actually trying to restore it right now and have it down there.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, like I said, when I go back, when Paige and I go back down to wrestle in, I think March. I might be down in February, but in March when I go down, I'm gonna go down there and book to stay again. So, because I love it down there. So, like
Mhm.
that's literally like a home away from home for me. It's just not just Texas, but just like being down there. I love it. It's cool. So,
Yeah. Um, I've never so like I mean, there's a couple movies that I like enough that I would want to go see locations and stuff, but I've never gotten to do anything like that. Which I think like a lot of my favorite movies are animated a lot of the time, so
yeah,
there's nothing I'm going to get to go see unless
yeah.
yeah, unless they have like a museum or something. But like
Well, there's we'll have to take a trip together sometime. We'll all, me, you, Paige, and Joey, we'll all get together and go down. I think you enjoy it, and I'd like to show you around down there because I love it down there. It's just cool, especially when you're a fan of something like that. Because there are other places too. I haven't had a desire to do it, but like there's the locations of different Friday the 13th you can go stay at and things like that. The Scream
yeah.
House out in California, you can check it out. I actually think it's an Airbnb now or something like that you can stay. I'm not sure. I might be wrong about that, but yeah,
I
sometimes
know.
we'll plan something. Sometime if you want to, we'll go down. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. I know sometimes they open up the Camp Crystal Lake
Yeah.
to the public, but it's because that's actually like a Boy Scouts camp.
Yep.
So they only open it like periodically, and I think they only did it for the first time just like a few years ago because
I
it's
remember.
still functioning.
Yeah, I remember seeing something about that. When you go down, there's a route I always take to Texas when we go down, and
Hmm.
you go through this place called Texarkana, and it's a combination of Texas and Arkansas. In the late 70s, there was a movie based on a true story. There was killings in Texarkana in the 1940s, and the guy was called the Phantom. He's very similar to the Zodiac Killer. He got away. They never caught him. So they did a movie in the late 70s called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And
Yeah.
that movie was shot down there in Texarkana, so we always go through it down there.
Hmm.
So not only where the actual killings took place, where the actual movie was shot, and they also do every summer they do a screening of the movie down there too. So that's
Yeah.
something that's on my bucket list. And what's really funny about that is, I swear to God, like 25 minutes up the road from that is the Legend of the Boggy Creek Monster. That was a movie from the 70s about
Yeah.
Bigfoot, and it's
Yeah.
actually a location where they had these crazy Bigfoot sightings, like since the early 1900s. And they have this. We stopped there and we went to it's the Monster Mart, and they have like all this Bigfoot. It's kind of like the Mothman Museum. So
Yeah.
so that's
Well,
like,
that's cool.
yeah, it's crazy. It's like you're going to Texas, you go to Texarkana, where the Town That Dreaded Sundown happened, and then 25 minutes up the road, there is the Legend of the Boggy Creek Monster. It's just amazing, all this stuff, how close it is. Like it's,
Yeah.
for me, and I'm going to be documenting so much more of it. So
Right. I mean, I know, I feel like you expect like when you go out to like California for it to be like that, but I wouldn't think about that in other states. Like, um, I know I was reading, I don't remember where it's at though, but I love like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like that's
yeah,
one of my favorite.
yeah,
There's a place you can go see one of the locations of it, and they do like a little festival like once a year or something where they have props from the movie and stuff. And
that's
I'd
awesome.
like, but I don't know where it's at. I'd have to look it up
Yeah,
because
I'd look that up and I'd go check that out. That's cool.
Yeah.
They bring
And
those guys.
then,
They bring those guys down to Scarefest from time to time. I think they might have been there this past year.
oh, really?
Yeah, I think. I could be wrong, but I think.
Um, and then I'm been really into the Haunting of Hill House. Like, I read that book recently and stuff, and then I love the movie. And the original movie was filmed in an actual like haunted castle, not all
Yeah.
of it, but parts of it.
Yeah.
And you can stay in it, but it's not in this country, it's in England.
I still though that'd be pretty cool because one thing I'm not too excited about going overseas or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to check out like the Dracula's castle, of course, Transylvania. Like that's a main thing for me. But that's cool. That's very cool. I didn't know that they filmed that in an actual castle, haunted castle. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't know it either. I was looking up stuff about it the other day because I watched the really awful remake of the movie that they made back in like 98 or 99.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I remember that.
Joey was like, I wonder if they filmed that at an actual castle. And I was looking it up, and that wasn't filmed at an actual castle, but the original one was.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Have you watched those?
We watched the I think it was the TV show that they did on Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched that. That was really good. It was scary. I liked it.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. Like I'm not a big ghost or demon or supernatural horror movie fan. I mean, I'll watch it and stuff. Like I only recently started watching. Paige and I sat down and we watched The Conjuring, and that's the first time I'd ever sat down and watched it because I just never really been interested in it. But I mean, that's
right.
just,
I know
that's
me and you were always opposites like
Yeah.
that, though. Like, you always went for more of like your gritty
Slasher.
slasher and torture movies and stuff. And
Well, the thing is, like with the slashers, this is what I like, and I figured it out. I'm in professional wrestling. I like characters. I like gimmicks, and all the slashers I like. Jason, he's got a gimmick. Michael Myers, he has a gimmick. Leatherface, Pinhead, Freddy, Scream. Like I like my supernatural slashers, and then I like the realistic slashers, like Who Did It, that kind of thing. But then I love zombie movies. I absolutely love like George Romero's zombie movies. Some of the remakes, like the Tom Savini remake of Night of the Living Dead, it's great. The remake of Dawn of the Dead and from '04 was off the chart. I love Ving Rhames in that movie. Cannot be beat. So yeah, you and I were always just on different spectrums, which was funny because I liked like hard rock and metal. You liked punk. I liked slashers. You liked supernatural, So
yeah,
it's always funny.
Yeah. Because I really like, I love paranormal movies so much. Found footage movies are like my favorite thing, though. Like, I'll watch any found footage movie. I don't care what it is.
You ever seen the John Wayne Gacy found footage movie?
No, what's it called?
It's like the Gacy House, something like that. It's your typical found footage movie, but with John Wayne Gacy's ghost. I mean, you never see him, I'll go ahead and spoil it for you. I don't think you'll like it. It's it ends with one of the camera guys. He gets thrown up against the wall, and you just see his pants are getting ripped down, and basically because John Wayne Gacy was a rapist, And
Yeah.
I was like, I remember because I rented it on DVD, and I was like, what the hell did I just watch? I said, did that just end like that? And I remember I rewinded it, and I was like, yeah, that ended like that. That was crazy.
That's wild.
It's something, man. But my favorite found footage, Blair Witch Project. That's one of my favorite of all time. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love Blair Witch
I think
Project.
it's one of the scariest movies ever made. I love that movie.
Yeah. Did you watch that one that came out a couple years ago?
Yep.
I thought it was really good.
I liked it. Paige and I went to the movies and watched it. And when it got to the end of it, I was like, is this about aliens? I was like, this is crazy because the lights and the whole house was shaking. I was like, holy shit, it's about aliens. Oh my God. And then you see which I read that wasn't even the Blair Witch, but you see that thing and it's like, God, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Hell, I even liked Book of Shadows. I liked it. I thought it was fun. But yeah, I love the Blair Witch.
I think I really like the Poughkeepsie tapes. If you've ever watched that, that's.
I remember when it came out. it was really impactful when I saw the trailer. Like, it really spooked me, and then I watched part of it back in the day, but I never finished it. It was really scary. Like, I thought it
It
was
is.
really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a super, the lore around that movie and everything too, because it's one of those that's like, it's kind of hard to find, you
yep.
know, like
It's
you
on
just
Tubi.
hear about it from
Yep.
like weird channels and stuff,
Yep.
you know.
Oh yeah, because I remember when it came out, I kept waiting for it to come out in theaters. I was like, well, when the hell is this movie coming out? Because I think it
Yeah.
came out the same time that movie P2 came out, which is the woman, she's trapped on the second garage level with the security guard, and like he's trying to kill her or something. I can't remember what that's about, but like those
Yeah.
came out around the same time, and that I just remember I kept waiting. I was like, when the hell is this coming out? And then I saw it later on DVD, and I think I rented it, but I never finished it. So
It's pretty good. It used to be on Netflix. I don't know if
it's on
it still
Tubi
is.
now. It's on
It
Tubi.
is on Tubi.
Yep.
Everything's on Tubi.
Yep. You can find. I love Ginger Dead Man. You can get Ginger Dead Man on Tubi. I love Ginger Dead Man.
That's another thing. I'm a big like creature feature person. Like if it's gonna have a monster in it, I'll watch it. I love monsters, and
I like I like outlandish things. So of course I love serious stuff. I was just sitting here, we were talking about Texas Chainsaw, and I said, less is more, and that's true, and I'm all about that. But I also like the concept of all kinds of crazy stuff just happening in like one movie. It could be like killer dolls mixed with zombies, mixed with slasher. If it had all that stuff going on at one time, like because I like the ideal of what would happen if a serial killer that was killing hitchhikers, like he picked up a hitchhiker that was a serial killer that killed the people that picked him up. What would happen if those two met? Seriously.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be great. Like what would have happened had Jeffrey Dahmer met John Wayne Gacy? What would have happened had the Green River Killer met Ted Bundy? Like, what would have happened with all of these, killers? Because, what happens when you meet your match, so, but yeah, right. I like that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, could you, just because we were talking about found footage, but like, could you imagine if you did some sort of found footage movie about the killer that picks up hitchhikers and kills them with the hitchhiker who ends up being a killer too? Like, if you had like found footage of that, like that kind of, I think that would be cool.
You could do that because where there's a history of certain serial killers videotaping like their stuff, and you could have both guys doing that. I think you would need a third party involved. That would be the victim of each, maybe, because I don't know. Well, maybe not, because there was the what were they, Hillside Stranglers or something like that. There was there was a couple, like they were filming and the people they were killing. So you do have like those elements exist like with certain serial killers. So I think that would be cool and that could work. It'd be very tricky. If you could pull it off, it would be. I think it'd be off the chart.
Yeah. I mean, like, because it could definitely be one of those things where, like, maybe both of them end up dead at the end somehow. So then you've got a person who finds, like, their stuff or something like that. I mean, I'm sure there's a way you could do it.
Here, how I do it, I mean, however you get them filming their shit, of course somebody would find it. But I'm talking both of them. They both have knives. And they just start stabbing each other, and they just keep stabbing, and they both drop to their knees. They're still stabbing each other. I'm talking about blood is going everywhere, and they just keep stabbing each other until both of them fall.
Yeah.
And then you see one like he's about to get up, and then he just falls again, and they're both dead. That's how I do it.
That would be excellent.
Oh, yeah.
My friend Dak wants to know who your favorite wrestler is.
Oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's who I grew up on.
Yeah.
He's the greatest of all time. Stone Cold, but honorable mentions, I mean, Macho Man Randy Savage. Freak you. Yeah. Bonesaw McGraw, I got you for 3 minutes of playtime. Randy Savage, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart. I'm a Bret Hart mark. The Rock, I love The Rock. Anybody from the 90s.
All the OGs.
Yeah, the guys that, could actually sell out arenas, the guys in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I really appreciate you coming on here with me.
Hey, this
And
was fun. I loved the hell out of this. It was cool, man.
yeah, it was really fun. I've been doing these. I know that I don't think you've gotten to watch any of them when they've been live, but I've seen you like them
Yeah,
afterwards and stuff.
I've gave them likes because I've watched some clips of them and stuff when I could. Yeah, they always look cool.
Yeah. They're usually pretty fun. I've picked a couple of movies that were duds. A lot of people didn't watch because like they didn't, like I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people didn't watch the live stream because they didn't watch the movie, and
You
then
need to do
those are awkward.
Dark Harvest 2. That's the
That's
one.
awful, isn't it?
Horrible. You know what's cool? You know what's cool though is I'm friendly with the guy that made that movie. Like I got
Oh,
him.
really?
I got him on my Facebook. I've talked to him. He runs his name is Bill Cow. He runs the Niagara Falls Film Festival, and which is crazy. But I've talked to him a little bit, and I said, man, I'm such a huge fan of Dark Harvest 2. He said, God, that was a long time ago. So I'm friends with him, and then I'm also friends with the guy that made part 3. I just got to become friends with the guy that made part 1 now. So
Yeah.
that's my goal. That's my goal. If I can get their numbers, I'll create a chat and let them all talk to each other.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
I'm gonna also, as long as I can figure out how to do all of it and everything, I'm gonna be doing a podcast soon as well. I recorded an episode with Carolyn tonight, but I'm gonna see how it turned out. I don't know if we got enough stuff for it, so I might have to do something else with it. But anyway, whenever we get that going, eventually I could have you on there too to talk about something with us.
Yeah, get me on it, man. I'll talk about horror movies, urban legends, because I'm getting ready to start some stuff too. Now that I got like my footing underneath me with wrestling and stuff, and I got like all these places I'm going to this year, I'm going to start doing a lot more documenting and like interviews with wrestlers and stuff. And by the summer I'll have my own podcast, but right now it's just going to be me videoing, and I'm just getting everybody's. Where I do the urban legend of professional wrestling, where that's me. That's kind of been my whole shtick. That Paige and I we're going to be doing out on the independents, just interviewing people, and I'm going to all these different places and stuff because I love, whether it's Bigfoot or Mothman, I love it all. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that sounds awesome.
no problem.
Yeah, but thank you for coming on here and talking to me. And
yeah, I'm gonna have all this real quick. I'll have all that stuff. We're gonna put it up on my YouTube channel. So that's something I'm trying to grow right now. I'm getting like all my wrestling promos, all my wrestling matches. So Evil Nate YouTube, and then I'm gonna have like all these interviews with wrestlers, former like legends, and then independent wrestlers and things like that. And just it's gonna be something very fun. I'm actually going to be filming hopefully something this Friday night coming for that. So
okay, so you're going to do YouTube videos, and then you're also going to try to do the podcast to go with it.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get to the podcast at the latest summertime, summer 2022. I'm going to try to get to that. But when you get yours going, let me know. Anytime you want me on there to talk, I'll love to. That'd be fun. Because I enjoyed doing this with you. I'm glad that you had me come on here. This was cool talking about Chainsaw and all the other horror movies too. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I figured if I was going to talk to anybody about Texas Chainsaw, it would have to be you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to become the, finiciato, however you say that, of it. I mean, I have the Excalibur that's been signed by Leatherface himself. I've had it at all the places, and Leatherface used it. So, I'm trying to be like the most, chainsaw guy there is, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, the most legit chainsaw guy. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely on your way.
I'm trying.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later, and thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you, Nikki. Appreciate you.
All right. I love you.
All right. Love you too.
Bye.